Hello everyone, welcome to the class. I hope I'm clearly audible and visible. Hi Sakshi, good evening. I'll just text in the group as well once that I'm clearly audible. Sorry, I'll just text in the group that I'm live, and till then, somebody please affirm that I'm clearly audible and visible. Thank you, Saloni, for confirming. Also, is my voice low? Like I'm using mic. I don't know why, but some people keep on typing in the comments that the voice is low. Like, is it really low? Okay, okay. I'll see. I think I'll have to do some kind of settings. I don't know like how that works. I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, so we'll wait for 2 more minutes for more people to join in, and then we will begin with today's class. So if you have any query in what we did yesterday, please let me know. Hi people, hi Saloni, hi student on a low budget. Student on a low budget, wow, what a name. Nice. Chalo. Okay, so in yesterday's class we talked about Rene Descartes, and we also completed the British empiricism movement, and we also read about how these British empiricists like Thomas Hobbes, like George Berkeley, like David Hume, John Locke, how they were similar and how they were different. So I would like to ask you all a little question before we begin. Everybody, please pay attention and let me know. Wait, let me adjust the dimensions of the. All right, everyone. So, which of the following British empiricist? Okay, so BE stands for British empiricist. Is known as supreme skeptic. Wait, let me write the options. John Locke, David Hume, George Berkeley, Thomas Hobbes. Alright everyone, please read it carefully, and when I ask you to type in, please type in your answers. Okay everyone, type in your answers. Very good Sakshi, very good Saloni. David Hume is known as the supreme skeptic. Okay. Also, the next question, similar question. Okay, कि which of the following? Let me write it. Coined the term tabula rasa. So the options will remain same. Wait, let me just copy it on the next page. Yes, everyone, please read the question carefully and try to answer. Thank you so much, student on a low budget. I would love to know your name, like it's really creative and nice. Okay, everybody, please type in your answers quickly. Very good, everyone. Very well done. John Locke is the correct answer. Now, the third question. What is the literal meaning of the term? Tabula rasa. I'm not going to give you any options. Please type in your answers. Okay, no options for this. Very easy. Alright, everyone, please start typing in your answers. Alright, very well done, everyone. Okay, now the fourth question that I'm going to ask you. Philosophers like David Hume, George Berkeley ascribe to which of the following? Okay, so first option is Alright, everyone, please type in your answers. Sakshi, what I'm teaching you, the notes that I have given, I hope all of you, if nobody has checked out, you can see the description of this video. You will find a spreadsheet attached. So in that spreadsheet, I give you all the links and the notes as well, right? So these notes are more than enough. But in every class, students keep on asking me, ma'am, which book to refer. So I sent the book, but it has a lot of extra material because it is for somebody who is like preparing for net also. But that book is a nice book. I could not find a book with a lower level. Those were very generic books. I did not want to give that. So even if you stick to what has been written in my notes, that is more than enough. You should no need to do anything. The second option is Cartesian dualism. Alright, everyone, please start typing in your answers. Alright, everyone, please type in your answers quickly. Monism, very good, everyone. Okay, so for those who are confused with what is Cartesian dualism is the plain simple dualism that mind and body are separate. That's it. Okay, that's simple. They do not talk about they do not interact, nothing. They just say they are different, they are separate. right? So now we will be beginning with today's class. In yesterday's class we read about Rene Descartes, we read about British empiricists. Before that we have read about from the pre-scientific era, wherein there was Hippocrates, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Now we are going to read about some of the French philosophers, other philosophers who kind of started to add on to the evidence-based learning, add on to the empirical scientific nature, making psychology a different science. So first person that we are going to read is Franz Joseph Gauss. So Franz Joseph Gauss, in 18th century, he came up with this field of phrenology. If you remember, in one of the earlier class, we mentioned his name, right? So what did Franz Gauss do? Franz Gauss basically gave this whole school where he said that I can predict the intelligence of a person. How? On the basis of how their head looks. So he proposed three things. First is, he said the bigger the head, more intelligent the person is. Right. Second, he said that specific mental abilities and characteristics are localized in specific brain area. Let me add another slide and explain you. So for example, this is the basic brain structure which is there. Right, so now we know that the frontal lobe is responsible for our executive functioning. Then the parietal lobe is responsible for touch, sensation related aspects more. Then the occipital lobe is responsible for vision, visuospatial activities. Then the temporal lobe is for hearing, kinesthetic aspects as well sometimes. Right, so now we know that there are specific brain region, right, who are responsible for specific mental functions. For example, when we talk about amygdala, it is responsible for higher emotional processing. When we talk about cerebellum, it is responsible for balancing. When we talk about the this frontal lobe, prefrontal lobe, it is responsible for higher order executive functioning, right? So now we know that. So that is what he said there. So out of these three, this one was correct, and this is what was actually found later as well. This is what we know today. This is correct. The third thing that he said was that the size of the bump. So when you look at your head, right, no matter, this is how we make the skull part, but it is not as smooth. When you touch your head, you can feel that there are certain bumps, there are certain indentation on our head, right? Now it can be because of maybe some injury that you had during child. Otherwise also it can be there, right? So herein he said that the more the bumps, I can tell you ki if a person is having specific kind of bumps here and there, they will be able to understand the personality associated with that. So he said I can just feel those bumps and I can let you know whether that person will be a friendly person, what will be the characteristic, what will be the traits, what will be their personality, right? So he said that. Is it true? Do you think it is true? No, it is not true, right? So that is about फ्रांस गॉल. ठीक है, हम यहाँ पे और कुछ बात नहीं करेंगे कि क्या है मोनिस्ट डोलिस्ट, कुछ बात नहीं करी है उन्होंने. ही हैज जस्ट गिवन दिस aspect. Now from this aspect we cannot actually get down on anything कि what was his philosophical inclination. ठीक है, then came other people. ठीक है, when Gall was giving all of these pseudoscience wali aspects like bigger the head, etc. Even some people said that maybe if Gall had a bigger head, that is why he was getting or he was giving such theories which are so mindless. There were other French scientists who gave or who contributed to our understanding of the anatomical brain and the functions which are associated with that. One of them is Pierre Florence. So Pierre Florence actually removed certain part of the brain. So for example, he removed some part of the brain. Maybe for example, he must have taken out some part of the brain of pigeon or animals he worked upon. So if he took some part, he saw that if I compare, the people who have been removal have been done in those birds and those birds who have their brain intact, there was certain difference between how they were functioning. There was certain difference between the function that they were able to perform, right? So this is what he said. So basically we can come to this particular conclusion that the parts of the brain play some kind of function or actions which are maybe specific to those parts only. Okay? Then comes Paul Broca. Have you all heard about Broca's area, Wernicke's area? Anybody who has heard about Broca's area, Wernicke area? Yes, okay, Sakshi has heard about it. So when we talk about Paul Broca's area was named after his name because he found that particular area. So this Broca's area is found in the left frontal lobe, and this is responsible for speech production. So he said that those who had some issues, those who had damage to this particular part of the brain, they were not able to indulge into speech production. Okay, they were not able to speak. Okay, so that is about Paul Broca. Paul Broca also mentioned certain aspects. So he said that clearly if the Broca's area is damaged, okay, it is leading to what? It is leading to no speech. Hana? So he said that when we talk about Descartes' idea, what does Descartes said? Descartes said that mind and body are separate but they interact. He said that no, that must not be true. Mind and body are closely linked. That's what he said. Not very crucial. You should majorly know what is Broca's area, etc. But he said that if one area's damage is leading to such issues, maybe then our mind and body are not connecting or maybe not interacting via certain organ or something like that. They are closely linked. Now, if you must have remembered that when we read about René Descartes, he was also a French philosopher, right? So a lot of people, after Descartes gave his ideas, people started to follow him, people started to accept his ideas. So Paul Broca's finding was a groundbreaking aspect when we talk about the anatomical understanding of our brain. Is that clear? Are we clear on these three French philosophers? Franz Gall, Pierre Florence and Paul Broca. If you have any query anywhere in what we have just discussed, please let me know, then we will move ahead. Clear? Yes, no, something. Clear? Yes. Are we good to move? After Broca, did they discard the idea of interactionism? They did not discard the idea altogether, but they started to question that. They were like, maybe that's not entirely true. All right, everyone. Now we are moving towards the modern, history of psychology. So what happened? There were a lot of people, like Helmholtz. So Hermann von Helmholtz, that is his full name. Hermann von Helmholtz. So there were certain people who wanted to bridge the gap between physiology and psychology. So now we know that when we talk about Gall, when we talk about Pierre Florence, when we talk about Paul Broca, all of these people were kind of indulged into the physiological aspects, right? Physiological, anatomical understanding of our brain. Then came Hermann von Helmholtz. He wanted to actually measure the speed of impulse initially. Okay? And Wundt was actually his student. So Helmholtz was kind of Wundt's teacher. Wundt actually went on to work in his lab. So what we know psychology today is kind of based upon, or maybe he influenced Wundt on some aspects, right? So Helmholtz was entrusted to study the speed of the nerve impulse. We know that when I touch this, tip of my fingers, I know my brain is receiving the signal, right? And then it is giving me, I am getting the perception of being touched. The tip of my fingers are being touched. I get that perception. So he wanted to see how much time does it take for the impulse, for the stimulation to go to my brain and then send me a signal back. Okay, this is what is happening. So what he did was he took, he conducted this experiment on frogs. Okay, he wanted to see the reaction time of frogs. So he found out that when we are stimulating the toe of the, so he took various areas like this, this is a frog's leg, for example. Okay? Don't judge my drawing, just understand the concept. Okay? So he said that if I am stimulating, if I am sending a nerve impulse via the thigh, it gets stimulated more faster. When I, send an impulse via toe, it takes longer. So maybe there is a difference between the reaction time which a certain area also takes. Okay, so that is what he started to work upon. Now we know that even when we talk about a lot of behavioral experimentation, when we talk about cognitive psychology or neuroscience, they are very much interested to study the reaction time, right? Even when we talk about how we understand various aspects like multitasking or reasoning, etc., reaction time is very crucial to that. So he was one of the founders. He also worked a lot, and let me add another slide, he also worked a lot in regard to understanding of visual and auditory perception. Okay, he also gave this trichromatic theory of color. We will read about this in perception in detail. ठीक है, तो ये हम perception में पढ़ेंगे in detail. ठीक है, so he has talked about certain main colors like RGB जो हम बोलते हैं ना, red, green, blue. तो वहाँ पे कि what are these are the primary aspects, ये small wavelength के etc. We will read about it in much more detail when we study the unit of perception. ठीक है, so he has contributed a lot. First of all, how he has worked on to studying reaction time. ठीक है, he has worked a lot in visual and auditory perception. He gave this theory along with Young. ठीक है, so that is what he contributed. Now, as I said earlier, Wilhelm Wundt went to his lab. Now, congratulations to everyone. We have now entered the modern era of psychology, right? When psychology was formed. Now, the balance between, now the bridge between philosophy and, we initially started with philosophy. We took certain aspect from philosophy, then we took certain aspects from physiology. So psychology is the bridge between both philosophy and physiology, because it takes from both. Okay. Now Wilhelm Wundt, we know Wilhelm Wundt is known as father of modern psychology or experimental psychology, right? Why? Because he established the first experimental lab in University of Leipzig University in Germany, 1897. Now let me add another slide and explain you the constructs which were put forward by Wundt. So Wundt said that it is very much important to understand our consciousness. Okay, so this consciousness should be understood by us. We should understand how we process information. We should understand how we respond after that, right? So he said that the only way of understanding it is breaking this unconscious part into its smallest atom. So for example, if you are in there studying in this particular class, so this whole experience, right, this whole consciousness, when you are reading about a particular topic, it should be broken down into smallest part. Okay, it should be broken down to a thought. For example, if you are reading about a theory, okay, the smallest part can be the thought which is there behind, right? So the smallest part of consciousness is what? Thought. For example, if I talk about a matter, ठीक है, हमने सबने पढ़ा है matters are made up of small tiny atom. Now what will be the atom of our consciousness? Anybody? I just explained it to you. What will be the atom? What will be the smallest part of our consciousness? Quickly, everyone. Thought. Yes, Sakshi. Thought. Each thought will add up together to form our consciousness at that given point of time, our experience of a particular aspect, right? So Wilhelm Wundt wanted to study the content and process of consciousness. That is what we have read about. Now what is consciousness? Consciousness are all the things that we are aware of, everything that we are aware of. And he has also given a lot of importance to will and attention. Okay, so his main interest was to study the voluntary behavior. What have I? Voluntary behavior. Okay, hence his field is also known as voluntarism. So if you are asked that Wilhelm Wundt is founder of what? He is founder of voluntarism because he wanted to study the consciousness and the will. He wanted to study all the voluntary behaviors that we indulge into, all the conscious thoughts that we have in mind. So Wilhelm Wundt is the founder of voluntarism. Okay, quickly, are we clear on that? Why he is the founder of voluntarism? If you have any thoughts anywhere, please let me know. Then we will move ahead further to the next theories propounded by Wilhelm Wundt. Founder of modern psychology, father of एक ही बात है, father and founder is same. ठीक है. So now Wilhelm Wundt said that even when you talk about single-celled organism, humans are multi-celled organism, but there are certain single-celled organism like amoeba, like protozoa, etc. So he said that even when you talk about such organism, we can also see the differentiation of mental function. We can also see that they are enabled to indulge into certain mental function. For example, when we talk about the amoeba is able to devour, amoeba is able to enjoy certain food item. He is able to, it is able to, so do that. So it kind of shows that mental functioning exists. There is a continuity of experience which can be experience which is there in those organisms as well. And we know that he has obviously found the laboratory. This is a image from his laboratory only. Okay, this is how his lab kind of looked. Okay, and he said that we should, the experimental psychology should focus on understanding our consciousness, understanding the content and processes which are associated with our consciousness. Okay, so while defining consciousness, he said that we should be able to break this conscious down into its basic elements or atoms. Hence his area is also known as atomistic. Okay? Why atomistic? His approach is atomistic. Why? Because we are trying to break down our consciousness into the smallest part possible. Clear with everyone? Why is his approach atomistic in nature or reductionist in nature? Because we are reducing the whole part of consciousness into the smallest aspects possible. Okay, so his approach is known as atomistic or reductionist approach, and he actually divided our consciousness into these three major elements or these three major categories of action. So these are the elements of our consciousness, what our consciousness is made up of. First element is the representation. Representation is how we directly perceive something. For example, when you are looking at this PPT, how it looked, the form of the PPT, how you directly perceive the PPT, the look of it, the shape of it, the the colors which are here written here, everything which you are perceiving right now. Willing is what? Willing is that you should be able to see it. For example, right now in your room itself, where you are maybe sitting and studying, maybe you are able to hear the sound of the fan. There is light, which is coming around. Maybe there is a tube light. There is maybe some sound which is coming from outside your room, etc. There are so many stimuluses. There are so many things that you can perceive, but the will or the attention that you are paying to a certain stimuli leads to your consciousness, right? Hence, the will, the part of will is important. The second element is going to be will. And at last, the feeling. When we perceive something, how does that make us feel? Does that elicit a feeling of excitement? Does that elicit a feeling of subduedness or tranquilization? Does that make us feel pleasant or unpleasant, etc.? He also gave a tri-dimensional theory of feeling that we are going to read next. Okay, so when we combine these representation, will, and feeling together, they are going to make up what? They are going to make up the experience or the unitary continuity of experience or consciousness. Are you all clear with what were the basic thoughts of Wilhelm Wundt? Wilhelm Wundt is the father of experimental or modern psychology. His approach is reductionist and atomistic in nature. He said that the sole aim or the exact goal of the experimental psychology is to understand our consciousness, understand the content and the processes which are associated with our consciousness. And he said that we should reduce our consciousness to the smallest of the atom, and these are the three major elements of our consciousness: representation, will and feeling. Clear? If you have any query anywhere, please let me know, then we will move ahead further. We will read about the tridimensional theory of feeling put forth by Wilhelm Wundt. Clear? Are we good to go? Yes, no, something? Yes. All right, everyone, moving ahead. So this is the tridimensional theory. So this tridimensional theory of feelings. So basically when we talk about Wundt said that there are, specific emotions, right? For example, that you are feeling at the moment, and they are going to be, added. For example, the microseconds emotion that you are feeling, they are going to compound together. We are going to add up together, and it is going to lead to us experiencing a feeling. Okay? So he said that our feelings can be found on these three bipolar dimensions. Okay? First dimension is pleasurable or unpleasurable. So either a feeling is pleasant to you or unpleasant to you. Secondly, it might make you feel excited or subdued. Subdued को हम क्या बोलते हैं? Tranquilization. ठीक है? Then the third dimension is strain. Either that might give you some kind of tension or relaxation. Okay, you should know that he has proposed the tridimensional theory of feeling. These are the three bipolar dimension: pleasant, unpleasant, exciting, subduing, strain, tension. Okay, that's what he has talked about. Ki we will feel on either one of these dimensions. Okay, then as we have read earlier, he was very much interested to study about will and how it influences what we choose to attend upon. If you remember, if I just told you that will is one of the important element of our consciousness, what we choose to attend. You are not choosing to attend maybe the external noise which is coming out of your room, right? The other things which are happening simultaneously while you are taking this class. You are more interested to study the what you want to pay attention to, what your will is. So he said that will is very important. What we pay attention to is very important, and it is going to help us categorize our basic thought to complex thought processes. Okay? So his field is also known as voluntarism, because he wanted to study what we can control. Okay? He wanted to study the aspects that we are aware of, the voluntary actions, the perceptions that we are aware of. Hence, he is also known as the founder of voluntarism. Clear with everyone? Hi Stuti. I hope you are clear with why he is known as the founder of voluntarism. Now we will be, we will see how he understood all that. Okay, how he was able to, understand that these are the elements of consciousness. How he was able to break down consciousness into these elements. Basically, what was the methodology which was used by Wilhelm Wundt? He used the methodology of introspection. Okay? So what is introspection? Introspection was used as a method to study our mental processes. ठीक है, and he used this method. So for example, if you are somebody who is a subject in Wilhelm Wundt's lab, so if you are shown this apple, ठीक है, so you will be asked to divide this, when you see this apple, first of all you will tell what does this, how do you perceive that, what is the color of this apple, what is the shape of this apple, how does it look, then the will, and at last the feeling. ठीक है, so he first of all trained his subjects to give us type of a self observation, कि how we observe this. He actually gave a German term which basically means self observation or self reflection, but later on in English it was translated to introspection. ठीक है, and Freud and Wilhelm Wundt also distinguished between what is a pure introspection and what is the experimental introspection that he is using. So what will be a pure introspection? Pure introspection is जैसे when we talk about Socrates, when we talk about Plato, they used to indulge into reflection, they used to indulge into some sort of unstructured observation. But in his form of experimental introspection, he has given specific structure. कि you first of all need to see the representation, how do you perceive it, you need to observe the feeling which are associated with it, and how well you are paying attention to it. Are you able to control the experience that you are having? Is it automated or you paid attention to it, etc. ठीक है, that is about the basic aspects given by book. This is given by Wundt, and this is one of the book which has been written by Wundt, Principle of Physiological Psychology. ठीक है, and here in this book, what he read from, what he learned from Helmholtz earlier, he wrote that, he said that when we talk about reaction time, we can use it to help out the introspection processes. ठीक है, so reaction time, what he learned from Helmholtz, he believed that it is supplemental to studying conscious experiences, while somebody is interested to somebody is introspecting, they can use the time it took for them to perceive something. That is also important, that is also helpful for us to understand the consciousness. ठीक है, and along with all of these aspects, he was also interested to study the higher mental processes like culture. So he also worked upon in the field of folk psychology. ठीक है, so Volcker psychology is the German term for folk or cultural psychology, and he wrote around 10 volumes of these books. ठीक है, so if I break down all the theories which have been given by Wundt, what I can say, first of all, when we talk about the basic mental processes like specific thought or perception, ठीक है, he believed that they should be studied quantitatively. ठीक है, maybe with the help of reaction time, ठीक है, maybe with the help of other psychological methodologies which are there. But when we talk about these complex mental processes or these higher mental processes like culture, ठीक है, like language, ठीक है, then we should study it qualitatively. This is the crux of Wilhelm Wundt's theory. I will add another slide and summarize the whole theory of Wundt on one page. So what did Wundt say? First of all, Wundt's approach is atomistic or reductionist. Why? Because Wundt believed that we should break down the consciousness. We should understand the content and process of the consciousness. And how did he do? He gave these three elements of consciousness: representation, will and feeling. Okay? He also gave this tri-dimensional theory of feeling, right, which is based upon pleasant, unpleasant, exciting, subduing, feeling of strain and feeling of relaxation, right? And he wanted to study the complex mental processes as well. And he said that will plays a very important role. He was interested to study the voluntary actions and behavior, things that we are aware of. Hence his field is also known as voluntarism. He is founder of what school? Voluntarism. Voluntarism is not regarded as a separate school of psychology, but it is a field which Wundt actually worked upon. Okay? Now we know that at later stages this field of voluntarism influenced his student Tickner. Okay? E.B. Tickner. We will read about school from tomorrow class. So Tickner also got influenced by this study, by this field of Wundt, and he said that yes, we should understand the structure of our mind, and we can do so by studying our consciousness. So Tickner later formed the school of structuralism. So we can say that Wundt influenced basically Wundt was one of the underpinning theorists behind the discovery of this school of structuralism, but he was not the founder. Okay? And at last he said that when we want to study the basic mental functions, we can use to study it quantitatively, maybe by studying the reaction time. But if I want to study the complex mental processes, we need to use the qualitative method. And he has contributed a lot to studying the complex mental processes like language, like culture as well. How do people indulge in culture? Folk psychology. He has written 20 volume of this book, and I think he took around like 12 years. Let me check. 20 years he devoted to this particular theory, and he wrote 10 volumes of this book. So 20 years mein he wrote 10 volumes of Volcker psychology, which is folk or culture psychology. So that's it for today's class. I did not want to start with the school of structuralism because it would have taken like a lot of time. So I've added I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to keep it till the time the schools are formed. From tomorrow's class onward, we will begin with schools of psychology, right? So now how did we progress? We progressed from Hippocrates, who was a founder of medicine. Then we read about Socrates, we read about Plato, we read about Aristotle, we read about what was there in Middle Ages, right? Then we moved towards the Renaissance period, wherein we read about Bacon and René Descartes. Then we read about British empiricism. There were 4 people who were indulged there. We also read about the French connection, wherein people were more interested, more inclined towards the physiological aspect. Then Helmholtz, who was Wundt's teacher, and at last Wundt's contribution to the field of psychology. So that's it for today. yes, he was very devoted to the field. Now if you have any query anywhere, please let me know, then I would wrap today's class. Today's class was a little short, it was just a 50-minute class. In that also we did some PYQs, etc. So this was a very light class. From tomorrow onwards we will take like 1 hour 30 minutes for each class, because we will be reading about schools. So I will try to complete around 2 schools in a single day. Like for structuralism, functionalism, we will try to do that, but for psychoanalysis it's a little detailed, so we will see how much time does one school take. But yeah, that's about today. If you have any query, please let me know. If not, then I'm wrapping up the class. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Clear? Okay everyone, then bye bye, take care, have a nice day. Please revise, please revise. Now we are done with all the we are done with the history of psychology, the basic crux. Now we are moving towards the school, so very important, please revise. ठीक है, चलो, bye everyone, take care, see you tomorrow.